Alright, welcome back. Time to battle. Okay, we found our first opponent. 5 power is a bit much. Redraw. That is better. Although a bit slow, but we have all our cards except the time for our 5-drop. By the time we hit our 5-drop we should manage though. And as you can see, even with the change to the Primal Fire, we barely managed to get the 1 Primal. And it's good that we did, because the Permafrost might keep us alive to get to these 4 and 5 drops. Okay, now we have all the colors fixed, which is perfect. I'm gonna drop this instead of this, because for Forsworn Stranger next turn, both make it a 4-4. But this also lets us play Determined Stranger next turn if we draw one. Well, this doesn't, and forces us to delay it another turn. We want to try and avoid if possible. And all we get is more 2-drops rather than power. That's why you want at least 28 power. Like, we're gonna stall out on power too much here. Big trouble. But yeah, you gotta balance it, because the deck also doesn't take flood that well without any flood protection or way to use the extra power. So yeah, you have to like calculate the sweet spot basically. And that's around 28 to 29. And I tend to err on the lower side of what is reasonable when the deck is bad at managing flood's extra power sources. There are no ultimates or monuments and stuff. And even empower triggers. Could be considered to try adding 1 or 2 Enlightened Strangers now that they're fixing for Justice, and that was a sweet draw. For Justice and Time is so good that you could, for example, try and fit 1 or multiples of those in, like maybe cut the second Charge Stranger for 1, so that you can search it with Reunite and have a nice way to use extra power. I mean, I would like to do this, but I think what we really have to do is this, and then Permafrost it. So he can't like blow it back up with Protect. She might try, but then it's still like an 0-4 again. This is going really well for us actually. As long as there's no harsh rule in the deck, which shouldn't be, then we just drop Battle Tested Stranger next turn, the game's over. Yep. Looking good for us. That's another reason why it was kinda nice to delay Battle Tested Stranger. He can have like Island's Choice here, then we have 3 4-4s, and he can like block 2, but that's still like not great for him. Because he only gets our flyer, not our buff stranger. And he did indeed have it, but we have another Battle Tested Stranger and he's already jump blocking this turn. So even if he has a Vanquish for this, or a Silence, we just drop another one. And overwhelm him. Stranger danger. Strangers being dangerous. Alright, next opponent. Okay. Up against Buttermilk. And I think I like this hand. Having a 5-drop though is awkward. But we have all the colors except the time. I think I'm willing to keep it, but it might be wrong. But we have like a 1-drop into a 2-drop and pretty good color fixing. So there is some merit to it. We also have a removal for the first big guy. The opponent plays those. But we might have trouble hitting the 5 power to use this card ever, which is a problem. And drawing more 4 drops rather than power is not helping that situation. That's at least a stranger. Not the most relevant though. All it does is let one guy live through a lightning storm. No power, still stuck on 2. Big problem here. Probably gonna annihilate this, yeah. Means we lose a lot of damage. Drawing a time source alone already would be a big deal to get this stand together going. And yeah, now we are stalled out. Just shouldn't keep hands like that. A deck that wants to hit 5 just doesn't want to keep 2 power hands, especially not with one of the mentioned 5s in hand already. We basically kept a 6 card hand because we might never get to play this ever, so our opening hand is just kind of like -1 card. That's something that you should keep in mind when considering whether or not to redraw. Do you want to keep a virtual 6 card hand, or do you want to redraw into a random 7 card hand? And you almost always want to do, like in Magic you even want to mulligan a lot of 7 card hands with like 1 virtual blank. Because an average 6 is often better than a mediocre 7. And yeah, when your mulligan is to 7 again and not to 6, then there's even less reason to keep a hand like this. So blame this loss on me, not on the deck. Although to be fair, matchup like Faln, probably one of the more rough or roughest matchups, because they have a lot of removal and they're just shooting at our strangers as much as they can, trying to break off our synergies. And that's the wrong color fixing stranger, unfortunately. I mean, there's still some potential for us to get back into this, but it's not likely. Especially not with Harbinger. And also Soaring Stranger is so dangerous, like if I play this I can't even attack, because if I attack and he kills this, he just eats 2 of my guys for free. But we at least can play it and then pass. And next turn we can either play a second and then consider attacking, or if we draw time, we can stand together to protect us from getting blown out. Ooh, that's nice. And unexpected. I guess if we draw a ready time source here, that would be awesome. Well, I guess we didn't. And yeah, also, obviously a witch is a pretty big deal here. I mean, we still have like 12 outs to hit time. Yeah. Okay, there's either double lightning storm or witch. Okay, that's game over. Guess that's the other thing, like if the hand would have fixed time, that would have been a Combrei stranger instead of an Argenport stranger, would have been a bit more reasonable of a keep. Probably still should have redrawn it then, but yeah, the Argenport stranger, the shadow is just too low impact. So we were missing our like 3rd or even like 2nd color at this point, because we're basically Elysian splash fire splash justice at this point. With so much red having been cut. Okay, that's like a decent hand. Missing red, but that's okay. It's not that big of a deal. But once again, we are a bit light on power. So we have to hope to draw power off the top. Preferably next turn. That's not good for us. And that's not good either. Unfortunately. We get a 3-drop here. I might. I think I want to. Yeah. Try and like get a beefy enough board. So that's how the Time Cyan avatar looks. That's a decent draw. That means we can play this, and that also means if he doesn't have Permafrost, we can like double block, because he has usually only Annihilate, and he can't Annihilate either of those, so he can't blow us out in combat. But he has a Permafrost, which I was kind of afraid of. Okay. That is way too much. Whispering Wind into double Amulet is just kind of the nuts. And yeah, we'd be still stuck on power. That's not good enough. An unfortunate 1-2 start, but one of the losses was probably my bad. Alright, that's it for the first half of the games. Stay tuned for 3 more games coming up in a moment, as usual.